And welcome to Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah. So I have with me two brilliant young men, David Ayesam from Nigeria, DNT correspondent. David, welcome.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, and David is joining us from Warri in Nigeria, and Ki.Llings, our correspondent in Cameroon, joining us from Buea in Cameroon. How do you pronounce that name?
Buea.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this again. Black Stars, Green Eagles, Indomitable Lions. Which one is the best team?
Without a doubt, Indomitable Lions. It's not up for debate.
Not up for debate.
Not up for debate.
David, he's got to tell you.
Well, I would say your guess is as good as mine. Definitely is the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Okay.
Which I know quite well. You will affirm that.
All right. Let's settle this very, very easily. What was the last game between Indomitable Lions and the Green Eagles? The most recent.
Wow. Wow. We trashed them 4-1 now.
Oh, you did that 4-1.
It's still in the mama. Yes, 4-1.
Okay, so that settles that. All right.
4-1.
Well, at the end of the day, the better team lost.
Wait. Okay, no. Okay. So we've settled Nigeria, and what about Ghana and the Black Stars and the Green Eagles? What was the last meeting, and what was the score?
You should remember, sir. I think we won Black Stars 2-1.
No,
2-1.
No, I don't think so.
Ask your sports correspondent will tell you. We won Black Stars 2-1. Nigeria shot is the. That was two years ago. During the
2 years.
Yeah. We've not played ever since then again.
Oh,
we've never played ever since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Green
so
Eagles.
Nigeria is
What about Black
the
Stars?
Super Eagles?
What about the Black Stars and the Indomitable Lions? Our last meeting, what happened?
I can't remember. The Black Stars.
I can't remember that again.
I think we beat them. So
no.
I guess that settles it. But gentlemen, welcome to Diaspora Weekly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Countries have been in the news lately.
Yeah.
Nigeria with Endsars and Cameroon with the school killing by the separatist group. Tell us, Ko, what happened there in the school with the kids being killed?
Well, it was just a typical day. Children going to school. Schools just opened. The school calendar had to be changed because of COVID. Because schools were suspended for a while, so it shifted, the entire calendar shifted. So schools just opened. And you should note that in the English-speaking regions, the two English-speaking regions, like the Northwest and Southwest regions, the separatists had declared a school boycott for the past 4 years as a means of getting the government to acquiesce to some of their separatist demands, which is essentially that they want a referendum for the people to choose whether they want to still be part of the Cameroon Union. So part of their strategy has been to attack teachers. They have separatist leaders, mostly operating in the diaspora, who have called for the chopping off of the hands of children and teachers who attempt to go to school. Yes, of fingers and you have if you Google Tato Eric, you'll find. In fact, as early as today, one of their leaders, the former communication officer of the Amazonian Defense Forces, actually called for the arrest. They call it arrest, but it's kind of a fatwa style threat on musicians, artists who were calling for peace. So it's a situation that is really dire. The people are just, the entire community is held hostage. You should know that the reason why people still cast aspersion as to whether the separatists are culpable is because the military itself has acted in similar ways.
Okay.
yes, in terms of collective punishments of whole communities whom they think are shielding separatist fighters and all of that. So it's a very dicey situation, but the full weight of it is borne by the communities.
Where is Paul Biya, the president, in all this?
As everyone knows, that we have virtually an absentee president.
Okay.
When you see him talk, it's predictable when he will talk. So he has his days when he talks. So 20th May, 11th February, like Youth Day celebrations and reunification days and all of that. He doesn't come up, depending on when there is a crisis, to say, oh, I want to address the nation on this crisis. So he's been largely absent. What we see is his ministers who come up to talk in his stead, who tell us, oh, the president has asked for this to be done and all of that. But what we glean from what we get from the ministers is that he has mostly opted for a military solution to this political problem. Okay,
so he won. Paul Biya is absent, and I think how old is he? 82 or something?
83.
83. So Paul Biya, 83, too old, and he still insists on being the leader of the country, and he's nowhere to be found in matter of crisis, and you only hear from his ministers, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so whether his ministers are making these things up or they are acting on the instructions of Paul Biya, we don't have any way of knowing. Is that correct?
Yes, we don't, but we can get from multiple attestations. In that, if every minister is saying the same thing, we assume that this is the talking points which have been given to them.
Okay. Now, the separatist group, you said they're being influenced by Cameroonians in the diaspora, right?
Yes. Mainly financed by the diaspora. Yes.
Mainly financed by the diaspora, meaning in United States, UK, France, and all those places.
Europe and America mostly.
And these are the people who are directing the fighters to chop off the fingers of children and.
Yes, in principle, that's true. The problem, however, is there is no clear governing body for the separatists. So yes, they say there is the Amazonian movement and all of that, but you have groups just popping up like notifications on Facebook that tell you we are operating under the flag of Amazonia. There is no direct control, no line of control that you can say, okay, this is their leadership and all of that. The Amazonian movement that asking for separation actually has a leadership. The problem was that the leader is in prison. He was arrested in Nigeria. Seseko Ayoktabe and other leaders were arrested in Nigeria and in prison. And so you see, the reason why this crisis is even gets from bad to worse to just pure fatal is that who is the government supposed to negotiate with? They say it is the separatist leaders who are in prison, but the government will not negotiate with them.
But so they were arrested in Nigeria and they've been imprisoned in Nigeria, or they were brought to Cameroon?
No, in Cameroon.
So, which means Paul Biya and Buhari's government are working together. So Cameroon and Nigeria are working together. Do they have an extradition treaty that allow them to bring them to Cameroon?
Yes. Yes and no. The community, the legal community in Cameroon has called what the Buhari-Biya regime did to be very illegal. They've said it is something which they've taken it to the international court to try to get some form of resolution. But Buhari is also facing separatist threats in his own part of Nigeria, and the parts where he's facing these threats is neighboring Cameroon. And I think that from a political analytic point of view, that he would not want separatist activities in his country in terms of that Cameroon might be a landing ground. Yeah, it will be a landing ground for separatist militia in his own Nigerian separatist militia who are looking for a breakaway state, a Biafra. So they operate from Cameroon, launch attacks into Nigeria. So I think that's it.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's go to Nigeria and talk to David. David, I invited you to talk about SARS, but now, I mean, to talk about Endsars, but now it looks like you guys have some separatist activities on your hands as well. Are you familiar with that?
That's true.
Huh?
That's true.
Would you like to tell us about that before we get into the Endsars story?
Actually, I don't want to talk on that for now because that's not the present challenge we are facing presently in Nigeria.
That's fine. So
we
then
all know that.
Let's talk about Endsars. But you're familiar with that activity, though, right?
Definitely, most definitely, sure.
Okay. All right. So tell us about the latest on the Endsars movement. It made the news globally, and now there seems to be a crowd in Nigeria. What's going on with Endsars?
Yeah, actually, Endsars, like I did report, it started on the social media. It started this campaign on social media, which became a global body. You know, they now took to the streets when they found that police brutality was becoming something else in Nigeria. So the youths, in their numbers, in almost all parts of Nigeria, most especially the southern part of Nigeria, they grouped themselves, quite unusual. This is what has never happened in Nigeria before. And they went to the streets to protest. And really, because of the protests, it was a peaceful protest. They were not harmed, just with their placard and what have you. It's alleged that the military, went there and shot sporadically, and a lot of the youths were killed. It was alleged that about 12 of them were killed. So ever since then, there have been chaos in the country. In fact, everywhere has been people were pandemonium everywhere. Then the government, the federal government, was supposed to come to play, was supposed to take decisive action by addressing this issue so that it doesn't escalate. They were so daft, they were so bereft of ideas. They didn't. The president never said anything. Not until the 12th or almost 2 weeks to this, before he now made a broadcast. I don't know whether it was a live broadcast or not. And he never mentioned anything about the Endsars killings and the rest of them. Not until the international bodies, they started reporting on this. I think recently, he now admitted that yes, the people were killed. This and that. They will do investigation into all this. So by and large, the Endsars issue has come to stay. But presently now, there has been the state government have taken a drastic decision to make sure this thing doesn't escalate more. So they impose curfew to make sure people, maintain peace and order. So presently now, the tension has subsided, unlike it was before. Because when this started, the youths took to the street. When those youths were killed somewhere around Lekki, the youth were not happy. They took to the street and they started vandalizing government properties and the rest of them. All because the government too sent their own thoughts to disrupt the peaceful protest. So presently now, I think there's calm in the country.
Okay. Now, for some will say that if you start out a protest and you call it Endsars, 2 days into the protest, they ended SARS and started SWAT. Why didn't the protest end there?
Yeah. Yes, that is a very good question. The protest didn't end there, like I said before. Endsars came to be because the youth said they were tired of police brutality. Police were killing, maiming, just name it. The youth were never at peace. You walk past the street and you are being accosted by the police.
So why didn't they originally ask for police reforms? Because they started saying Endsars, right? And then they ended SARS and formed SWAT. and say, no, we don't want SWAT either. To the outside world, people might think you're just trying to cause chaos.
Exactly. Yes. Let me just go straight to that point. We have been clamoring for the government to reform the police for a very long time, and our plea has fell into deaf ear. We have been clamoring that the police should be reformed. Nothing was done. Let me surprise you. This SARS of a thing. This should be the fourth time, if I'm not mistaken, that the government will say, "Oh, they disband SARS. They do this. They do that concerning SARS." But yet, I tell you, they still continue with their wickedness against the youth. Now, because the youth voices were louder than it was expected, then the government now said, the IGN came up again to say, look, okay, we have disbanded SARS, nothing like SARS again. 2 days later, he came up with the idea of SWAT. Okay. Is that sensible enough? That wasn't sensible of the government.
Yeah, so it's almost like
SARS and SWAT.
Yeah, it's almost anybody.
SARS and SWAT are just the same.
Okay, all right. So now tell us. I think when I spoke to you the last time, you mentioned about the ethnic component, the ethnic aspects, the underlying reason why this police brutality is in the first place. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, let me re-emphasize on it again. I said police brutality is majorly in the southern part of this country. In the north, there's nothing like police brutality.
Okay.
You understand me? Those in the south, southeast, and southwest, just go there. You see how the youths are being, they are just being dealt with anyhow, and nobody raises an eyebrow. Okay. You understand? So, but in the north, nothing of such, because the police, they are even afraid of the northerners. They are very much afraid of the northerners compared to the southerners. Someone in the south, a southerner will move around. If you mistakenly, just hold just a sharp object mistakenly, and you have been accosted by the police and they see that on you, well, sorry is the person's name. But if it happens to a northerner, they move about with their sharp objects and nothing happens to them. They just go scot-free.
We wake up every morning to different stories from politics, business, sports, and entertainment. These stories, one way or the other, affect our lifestyle and dealings with family, friends, and business associates. Your take on Diaspora Network Television gives you an opportunity to have your take on these pertinent issues via phone in and messages to our social media platforms, DNT Ghana on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If it's an important trending story, we will definitely talk about it. Your take with me, Yalsichi, on DNT.
Would you buy anything without first knowing exactly what the product was and how it could benefit you? Definitely not. Neither should you vote for your next member of parliament without knowing who they are and how they plan to solve your problems. Watch The Next MP only on Diaspora Network Television and find out the men and women who want to represent you in parliament. The Next MP only on DNT.
What do you think about the Buhari government? Is it ethnically diverse, or
it is very glaring. It is very glaring that it is ethnically biased, because the Northerners they enjoyed so much privileges, mostly in this Buhari administration. Ever since he came to power, the Northerners have been enjoying, mostly those who are in the core north. Because we still have some part of the north that are not core north.
Okay.
The Christian part of the north, nothing favored the Northerners. Like I said, in the government, we have about 95% of Northerners in government, occupying sensitive key positions. Just name it, right from the IG, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Navy Staff, Custom, NDLEA, even what's it called? The INEC. Those who are in charge of election. Yes, just yesterday we appointed the former INEC commissioner to be and it's from the north. So it has always been just like that. It's just ethnically, it doesn't, everything about ethnicity is Buhari has never done so well to.
Before we go to Cole, quickly, by your estimation, Northerners and Southerners, when it comes to education, which group would you say is more highly educated?
Wow, that is where another problem again we're having in this part of Nigeria. Do you know that we have what's called quota system, even in education? Someone who wants to gain admission into the university, for instance, if you are from the north, if you score, for instance, you score like 20 over 400, you may gain admission more than someone who scored 200 or 190 over 400. That is to show you how biased we are in this part of Nigeria. So really? the Southerners, they are more highly educated, and as such, before they gain admission into the higher institution, before they are even admitted into anything, you must be exceedingly good. But if you are a Northerner, just the score is just minimal. It surprises people, and we have been agitating for this, and nothing happens.
Okay, so let me come to you, Cole, in Cameroon. It seems to me the problem in Nigeria, which is a north-south problem, that problem in Cameroon is not north-south; it's rather English-French. Is that correct?
When you put it like that, it might be a kind of a mischaracterization of it.
Okay, so tell us
what is the
divide? What is the divide in Cameroon?
So you note that the colonial history of the English speaking region, the southern Cameroon, is different from that of the French speaking region, which means that there are foundational differences in terms of how their educational system is set up, and also the legal system, how these systems are set up. For example, the French system goes with civil law, and the English system goes with the common law. With the common law, there is a presumption of not being guilty until you are proven guilty. And with the French system, you are assumed, as a civil lawyer, assumed to be guilty, and you have the burden of proof on you. So if you're arrested, you're locked up, and then you have to prove that you were not guilty for what you've been accused of. And yeah, so these are fundamentally different systems. The educational system is very in terms of how it is structured. Now, however, what you find, French people are against both systems. It is a governing class of French people, which is made up of majority French people. So the Biya regime is, or even the Aïdjo regime before that. Remember, we had just two governments since independence. The Biya regime and the Aïdjo regime have engaged in the systematic elimination of the English system. So you would find judges who are trained in civil law being sent to judge over cases in common law. Most of these judges do not even understand the English language. You see, they send police officers to come and rule or institute law and order in the English-speaking regions, who believe in the civil law, who have been trained in the civil law system. And so there is arbitrary arrest. You just have to accuse somebody of something, or the person is suspected of something. The person is locked up. But that's something which is very new to the English speaking region, because we don't have that. Also, the idea of militarization of these zones, the English system does not have that too.
Okay, so what's the national language of Cameroon?
It is English and French. However, I give you an practical example as to why this is a crisis. I've been working with the Elections Management Elections Cameroon, for the past 10 years. And in Kumba, where the massacre took place. I'm the head of communication for that branch. And I have never, ever received an official communique in English.
Really?
But there never, ever, for 10 years. I had to protest to get an English version of a communique, in spite of the fact that there are translation departments in almost every government office. it's just assumed that people would take the French and go with it. Police officers arrest civilians in the English-speaking regions. These officers do not understand anything in English, but they have to take the statements that the people are giving, and then they give their own interpretation to it. And so people are even imprisoned for crimes they did not commit because the police officer could not understand the English language. Wow. You have a teacher. Teachers are being sent to teach students in the English-speaking region who do not understand English language. And you see, there are fundamental differences between, say, you study geography, which is English, and geography, which is French, in terms of the meta-language of it. So immediately, you bring a French-speaking teacher to the English-speaking region to teach students, and he or she doesn't understand the English language. There is already a deficit in learning. So these are the things which the English-speaking Cameroonians have been clamoring for, and which has spiraled into this.
Okay, so by your estimation, can this be resolved, or do you think the best way to resolve it is Amazonian land cessation?
Oh, I'm on record to have said that I'm against.
You said you are on record as saying that you are against the separatist movement. Tell me why.
Yes. First, I do not think that the issues that we face are issues that can be solved by a breakaway state. These are issues of bad governance, and you cannot. If I cannot get a document in English, it is because the government is not functioning correctly. You don't need to create another state in order that you could get a translation of a document. So that is it. Secondly, I look at the methods that have been used by the separatists to get the Amazonian state. It has resulted only in armed conflict and pain, and I don't think that that's something. There is no in the foreseeable future. We don't see that as something which is feasible. This war has been going on for 4 years. You have more than 3,000 people dead, according to the official records of international bodies, like Crisis Group and Transparency International. You have more than 700,000 internally displaced and over 500,000 refugees. You cannot solve that by creating a breakaway state. And the third reason why I oppose to that is the examples of other countries that have done so. Sudan, South Sudan especially, that it has become an example of how not to break away a state. And quite frankly, South Sudan mirrors most of the characteristics of Cameroon in terms of the divisions between Muslim, Christian there, which mirrors the English and French divisions here.
Okay, so but David, I'll ask you this. The problems that you described in Nigeria and the problems in Cameroon, they are similar in the sense that a significant chunk of the population feel like they've been marginalized by others. In Cameroon, in the case of, it looks like French English. In the case of Nigeria, it looks like North-South. So if you're marginalized and you've tried everything possible through dialogue and everything, and you don't succeed, like a marriage. If you try to work a marriage and if it doesn't work, there's something called divorce. Why is that a bad idea?
Actually, that is exactly what mostly those from the southeastern part of Nigeria have been clamoring for. They've been clamoring that they want their own country, Biafra. They've been agitating for Biafra because they say they cannot continue. Okay. But you know, like I told you earlier, Nigeria is such a special country. Despite the agitation, which has been there long before now, still nothing happens. The government still wants us to remain one indivisible, and there's nothing that it can do. Some time ago, most of those from the southeastern part, the youths, they were killed. They called them the iPods before it was proscribed as being a terrorist group. people that never carried out arms, people that never killed, but they were termed and labeled terrorists. Whereas those from the north who are known for, the things they do, they kill, they were known for Boko Haram and the rest of them. Boko Haram, it was not quite long before the term Boko Haram a terrorist organization. But I tell you that IPOB became a terrorist organization before Boko Haram. So those from the southeast part of Nigeria have been agitated that they want to leave. They cannot continue with this suffering. They cannot continue with this cheating and the rest of them in Nigeria. But they don't want to let them go. So what can they do? Nothing. They keep crying, calling on the international community to come to their aid. Yes, still nothing happened. So we'll still continue. Let's see how it goes. If at the end of it all, it's going to see the light of the day, we don't know. It's only God that can tell. But the agitation still continues. Now we are having those from the southwest to go to what? They're equally, they've started their own agitation gradually. The Arewa too, from the north, they still have every region have one group that agitate for them or the other, just to make sure that this other group that is agitating does not get the attention of the government. So that's exactly what is happening presently in Nigeria.
I used the analogy of a divorce, right?
Yes.
But we also seen situations where a wife is not happy with things that are going on and she leaves, right? Mm-hmm. And now her children is growing up with the husband and possibly a stepmother, and that puts the children in a worse situation. So the situation that we find ourselves in Cameroon and in Nigeria, at the face of it, may call for a separatist movement. But when you look at the larger picture, here we have African Union, which is trying to actually bring all the 54 countries back together. So isn't it counterproductive when at the time that we're trying to bring 54 countries together, some are actually trying to create more countries out of the 54? Does that make sense to you?
It does in terms of the bigger picture. Yeah. But when you look at the specifics of the countries in themselves, that all of these agitations are a result of failed governments, and that people are looking for a way out, a way to make their lives better. You should know that the separatists have always existed since we got independent, but it has always been a very marginal group. The reason why they've come to the forefront is because of government's mishandling of just demands by teachers and lawyers, for these things. And if I go by your analogy of marriage, I would say that the reason why I don't go for divorce in this case is that you could be in a marriage where one partner prefers jollof and the other prefers rice and stew. Mm-hmm. And one of the partners consistently cooks just jollof. So the other partner is okay, in the same house.
Especially Ghana jollof. Especially
Ghana and
jollof.
Exactly.
Which we know is better than the Nigerian jollof. Let's also say
it is. Yes. Okay. So imagine that. And so the question becomes, is there a possibility for me to cook my own rice and stew in the same house?
Okay.
So those of us who are considered moderate have asked for a revision of the form of the state, not really a revision, but a return to the original form of the state, which was a federal system, in order that we can have better autonomy in how we manage.
I think that would be a good. I think that would be a good compromise. The federal system.
Yes. In Cameroon, for example, I would say that the Anglophones and the Francophones really do not have any problem with coexisting. Really, they don't. We have common struggles. It's true that the Anglophone struggle is amplified by structural and constitutional issues. Mm-hmm. For example, that since Biya became president, he has never addressed the nation in English. Now, as a Francophone,
but can he speak English though? Does he know how to speak English?
Well, he speaks some version of it. So
Okay.
I don't know what, but a kind of dialectical.
But outside of national address, have you ever seen him speak in English?
No, he has attempted, but
It's not.
it wasn't English.
Okay. All right, David, we lost you for a minute. Let me come back to you. What do you think of leadership in Africa? If we can simply govern as if we're one people, like I'm sitting here in Accra, you are in Warri, Nigeria, Ko is in Buea in Cameroon. But at the core, we're one people. So why can't our leaders look at us and say, regardless of where you are, we're the same people, and let me govern like that? Why can't we do that?
Yeah, I want to say the problem is we've been having leadership problem, and our leaders have really implanted into us the divisive tendencies. That is why it's finding that even among the youths, there's division among them. They implanted this ethnicity problem, racial problems, name it, and because of that, you see that we don't love ourselves. When you see someone who is much more better than you, you don't give that person the opportunity to serve. You know that so and so person cannot perform. We still put that person in a position, regardless of the person who we know that has all the virtues, has all the character, all the academic qualifications, and has all the charisma. We neglect such people behind bar. Just like you are there, you are the CEO of DNC. The Ghanaians know that yes, you have the criteria to be president. Then will they give you the opportunity? That is black man mentality. That's African mentality. If it were to be in Europe or America, you see that they look into what you are, just like what we just look at a France president, the young man, Macron. Okay. They don't know. They don't want to know where he comes from, but they just want to know what he has, what he has to offer to the people. But African is nothing like that. There's nothing like that. We keep recycling old ones. Look at Pobia, who is 83 years. Look at Buhari, who is 70. The official age is 73 or 76, but it's more than that.
Okay.
You don't want to give the youths opportunity to serve.
We know mostly we point the fingers at our leaders, right? Let me drill it down to you. Yeah. David, you are Yoruba, correct?
I'm not Yoruba. I am Shekiri.
Shekiri. Where is that? What state is that?
Yeah, Shekiri in Delta State. Yeah, from
Delta State. Okay.
In my state.
Delta.
Yes.
All right. So you are the Midwest, kind of. It used to be Bendel,
yes.
Right? All right.
Yeah, it used to be Bendel. Yeah. Okay. But we are in the South. Yeah.
South. Okay. Anyway.
South. Yeah.
All right. My wife is from Edo, by the way. Isha.
Oh.
Are you familiar with that?
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very much, yes.
So now let me ask you, can you marry an Igbo girl?
Why can't I marry an Igbo girl?
Okay.
That is how it's supposed to be. I marry an Yoruba girl.
Okay.
I didn't marry my trans person.
Yeah. Can you marry a Hausa girl?
Of course I can.
Okay. All right. Because that's where it starts. If you can.
In fact, as I'm talking to you right now, I have an Hausa friend who is sitting close by me, listening to
our conversation,
watching this interview.
What about you,
Paul? Hausa friend.
Paul, what about you? What's your ethnicity?
I'm Bafor. That's from Kumba.
Kumba, Bafor. All right.
Yes.
In every country, there's supposed to be an ethnicity that you're supposed to hate, right? Do you have that in Cameroon?
Yes.
Can you marry from that tribe?
Yes. Yes.
Well, you hesitated a little bit.
No, I say so because it's more like you see, one of the reasons why the Anglophone problem has taken such a long time. I'm not talking about 2016. I'm saying Anglophone demand for reform has gone on for decades, almost half a century. Is because of these type of divisions.
Okay.
So you have the Northwest, which is the English-speaking part, one of the English-speaking part, and the Southwest. And the government has used divide and rule among these people and has created deep divisions, such that things like intermarriage becomes a problem even amongst such people, especially with the older generation. It's a serious problem. But for the younger generation, at least my generation and those behind me, we really don't have that concept.
We wake up every morning to different stories from politics, business, sports, and entertainment. These stories, one way or the other, affect our lifestyle and dealings with family, friends, and business associates. Your take on Diaspora Network Television gives you an opportunity to have your take on these pertinent issues via phone in and messages to our social media platforms, DNT Ghana on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If it's an important trending story, we will definitely talk about it. Your take with me, Yalsichi, on DNT.
Would you buy anything without first knowing exactly what the product was and how it could benefit you? Definitely not. Neither should you vote for your next member of parliament without knowing who they are and how they plan to solve your problems. Watch The Next MP only on Diaspora Network Television and find out the men and women who want to represent you in parliament. The Next MP only on DNT.
Young people always find a way to play along. It starts from a young age. When you see school children playing, they don't care where each of us are from. And the older they get, the more they lose that objectivity, okay? So why can't we take that objectivity with us from childhood to adulthood, where we get to the leadership level, and we just look at each other for what they bring to the table, but not where they're from? Why can't we do that as a people?
Well, I would say is individual challenge the problem. Because you are making a point. Most times, the youth, the young ones, they see themselves as one. But as soon as they get older, that divisive tendency comes to play. I want to believe the problem is because of selfish interests, or is it? I don't even know what to call it. I don't even know what's because perhaps it is an African ideology which we must expunge from our mindsets. Because it ought not to be like that. It wasn't like that in time past. But this time around, you see people, as they get older, they tend to, bring that division, nepotism, class differential into being. So I want to believe it is an individual problem, which people, as we get older, we tend to learn all these bad traits. I think that's what I have to say. So we just need to avoid such lifestyle. Because it doesn't overwhelm, it doesn't even help we the youths. Because we learn from the elders. Yeah, it doesn't help the youth. And that is exactly what is causing problem. Mostly in Africa, you hear the story from Nigeria now, you hear that of Cameroon. If you listen very well, you find that they are just similar problems. The challenges we are facing here. Yeah.
It's similar.
Yeah, it is.
So, Cole, let me get to you. We're trying to nail the problem. Why is it? Because look, the group that in Cameroon that you don't get along, what's that tribe? What's it called?
Oh, it's not a particular tribe, it's a region.
It's a region.
So the southwest, yeah, so you have the southwest and northwest. Northwest. These are the two Anglophone regions.
Okay.
So they are constantly at loggerheads. Yes.
Okay. So let me
even more so than the people they usually fight against, which are the Francophones.
Wow. So Northwest and Southwest are at loggerheads more deeply than they are with their common quote-unquote enemy of the French.
Enemy, exactly.
Okay.
That is what has been the factor that has always weakened the fight, because they've not been able to come together and provide an overarching, demand and unite themselves until now, where you have this youth, the youth really taking center stage in the fight and change in how things have been.
So I'm going to give you guys a scenario, right? If you go to a restaurant that you always go to eat, you go there 9 times, everything is fine. the 10th time that you went there, the service was bad. What do you remember, the 9 good visits or the 10th bad one? Which one would you likely remember?
Oh, 9 good ones, of course.
You will remember the 9 good ones, right?
Yes, I'll imagine that the bad one will be the outlier. So
The outlier. What about you, David?
yeah.
It's like same.
Same.
I remember the 9
And you
nine
see,
of
studies show that in customer service, the 10th one is what most customers remember. They'll say, oh man, the last time I came here, the service was bad, and they forget about the 9 times that the service was good, okay? The reason why I'm bringing this analogy is this. David, as you rightfully pointed out, you have a Hausa guy sitting next to you, right? Everything is fine. Yeah. But if you go out and you meet a different Hausa man, and for some reason that encounter is negative, right? Is that more likely to taint your impression of Hausa people,
Not at all. Not at all.
Irrespective of the good relation that you have with your friend?
Not at all. Not at all. Personally, like me, I mix up with even those who are not even of my tribe. The Hausa man is not a problem per se. Like I said, most times these problems are caused by the politicians. They are the ones, who trying to cause this division within the tribes. They cause this ethnicity problem. It is the politicians that cause all these things. If you see a good Hausa man, you mix up with them. If you see the other, you mix up with them. The politicians, because they know that if they allow us to continue together, we'll flush them out of government.
So why don't they do the right thing? Then they don't have to worry about somebody kicking them out.
How would they do the right thing when they still have talks that works for them? When they still have people that that support their evil deeds and all for filthy, all for just minor things. They still have people who support them, but those people know fully well that these politicians are not doing well. So what is actually playing out in Africa as a whole, apart from Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, those of them, is that our politicians are the problem generally. They want to divide. They don't like seeing us living as one. Okay. They don't like seeing us doing things together. They don't like seeing us mixing up together. So in all of these, you see them, they will start telling the people, oh, these people, they are bad. These people, they are doing this. All just to cause a confusion and division within.
Okay. All right. So
it pains me a lot. It really pains me a lot.
David thinks the problem is our politicians. Let me remind you of something. I drive in Accra, right? You see a big old sign that says straight. This lane goes straight. This lane turns left, right? And those of us who are turning left will be on this lane getting ready to turn left. And what do we see? The person, because they don't want to be in a line, in the queue, they will jump like they're going straight, and then when the light turns, they will try to cut it in front of people. Does that happen in Cameroon?
Oh, all the time. And almost institutionalized.
Okay. Does that happen in Nigeria?
And it's institutionalized.
David, does that happen?
I didn't hear the question very well. I didn't hear the question very well, please.
You said what?
I didn't get the question, please.
Oh,
I didn't get the question. The question.
Okay, the question is, when people disobeying traffic rules, when they say don't turn left, they try to turn left because nobody's looking. Does that happen in Nigeria?
It happens, yes. It happens every day. Even today, I witnessed it.
Okay, so my question to you is this. The same guy that the sign says go straight, he's trying to turn left because there's no policeman looking, right? Okay, that same person will turn around and say that the politicians are corrupt. What do you think he just did? He just cheated the system to get ahead of people who are in a queue. What is the difference between him and the politician who is doing the bad thing? Cool.
Yeah, the different Paul, okay.
Okay.
Yes. So I Yes, I think there is no difference in terms of what they are doing, but the difference with the politician is that the politician is held up to standards which the individual might not be. I give you a very practical example as to how this thing is a trickle down effect. In Cameroon, it takes a month for travel passport to be delivered, to be produced. So if you apply for a passport, it takes about a month. However, there is a new system. It's really not a system. This is something which is just, a corrupt system in which you could go and pay 3 times the amount and get a passport within 3 days.
Okay.
What obtains now is that those who apply for a month, who would have applied for the month, don't, because they will have their passports wait until, say, a year, 5 months, 3 months. They can't get their passports because the queue of people who have bribed to get their passports early is so long. And sometimes the administration even delays to produce these passports because they want people to bribe.
Okay.
So you see, the issue is if you have, it's structural and institutional. If you cannot clean corruption at the institutional and structural level, you allow room for individuals to also cheat the system because they think that that's the modus operandi of the country.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the final, but maybe 5 minutes. So let's talk about coronavirus in your respective countries. David, what's happening with COVID-19 in Nigeria?
Like I said earlier, COVID-19 is presently now nobody even knows what is called COVID-19 because there's nothing like social distancing. There's nothing like I sanitize yourself or the rest of them. Ever since 2 months ago, people have been walking just anyhow without observing all the stuff. Nobody accosts you, nobody arrests you, nobody talks to you. Everybody just live just like that, and nothing is happening. In fact, they've stopped reporting, giving us updates from the NCDC, National Center for Disease Control. There's no update again.
So it's not.
People are asking why, but still they'll tell you that the virus is still in town. But because people are tired, people are hungry, people are just they're giving up. But I tell you, people are still living. So the COVID-19 is there's nothing like COVID-19. That's the truth. Nobody mentioned it again.
God, do you think this is because initially when this thing came, it was overrated? We thought this was the dangerous thing, it's going to kill us all, and it never happened, so people don't care. Is that a situation in Cameroon?
Yes, I think so. You are a media person, so you know about the magic bullet and the media's role in setting the agenda, and you know the power that the Western media has. And we've domesticated the Western media so much in Cameroon that the fear factor was because of our exposure to the media. Because we did not see it translate in our society in such alarming figures. Not necessarily because it doesn't exist, but because of some of the times the incapacities that we have. For example, in Cameroon, we do not have enough testing centers, specialized centers for testing. We have just 2 for the entire country. We do not even do contact tracing for victims. We are very reliant on the traditional forms of medicine than actually the
Western
scientific, medical, occidental medicine.
Okay.
And so I think that I always, when I talk to my friends, I say we have decided as a community that coronavirus is not a priority. It's not even an issue for us.
Okay, yeah. I can tell you the same here in Ghana. Nobody even cares about it. So let's wrap up. I really want to thank you guys for making time for us and also corresponding news from your country for DNT. I really appreciate you. I want you to take a minute to tell us what do you think about DNT and the potential that it represents, being the network television for people of African descent, whether on the continent or in the diaspora. What do you think about it? Let me start with you, Cole.
I first of all think that it's a laudable initiative. I was talking with a friend before, I was telling them about this interview. I actually put it on Facebook because right now we are embarking on something called the End Anglophone Crisis campaign in the country. It is spearheaded by young people, especially entertainers, to work with the government to get lasting solutions. And the campaign is calling for demilitarization of the Southwest, the English-speaking regions. It is calling for genuine dialogue from ceasefire from both sides, genuine dialogue, and it's calling for the freeing of all arrested leaders. I think that this DNT is very important because it showcases some of these efforts that are taking place in these countries, that it allows room for these discussions to be had, and that it allows room for debate, for a democratic society, but it also allows room for voices that would ideally not be heard, the voices which are in the periphery that wouldn't have been heard. And I think that it's something that I am really honored to have been part of, to continue being part of it, hopefully.
Very good. David?
I want to thank you, the President and CEO of Diaspora Network Television, for giving me the opportunity to be one of your global correspondents. I must confess, ever since I came on board, there has been one success story or the other. DNT has come to stay. I've equally told a lot of my friends about DNT. Most times they ask me, how can they access DNT? I want to believe with time, DNT has gone global. We just also put in our best and make sure we keep on, bringing, improving on our content on daily basis. I still want to thank you because it is not easy for people from Africa to have such vision. You have such vision and carry people along. It's something that is we must commend. So I want to say God bless you, and then we keep sorry. We are part of the team, or continue to be part of the team of the Diaspora Network Television. Thank you so very much, sir.
I want to end by thanking you guys. I know you guys are a correspondent for DNT on a voluntary basis, and I appreciate you more than you will ever know. But I want you also to know that we're working very diligently to get to position it such that we can all use this as, a profession. Because indeed, I've had many people tell us from multiple corners, from the Caribbean, from the United States, that this is the mouthpiece of the continent. And I love the fact that what you bring to us makes us better, all right? And so I can commit to you that if there's something in your country that you need for us to put out there globally, all you have to do, you know what to do, reach out and we'll put it out, okay? And I sent you the app and stuff. Right now, people can get us on their phone mobile app globally. So the stories in Cameroon, the stories in Nigeria, we'll put it out there, okay? All right, this has been a great edition of the Diaspora Weekly. I was joined by Ki.Llings from Cameroon, our correspondent, and David Ayesan, our correspondent in Nigeria and the Delta State. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.